I definitely have a love-hate relationship with credit cards. On one hand, they can be a great tool to help you build your finances, especially as you're in the early stages of learning how to manage your money. I opened my first credit card when I turned 18, and it really helped me out later in life. Specifically, it really helped me when I went to purchase my first home. Credit cards definitely do have benefits that allow people to properly build their finances. However, on the other hand, the average credit card user is not using them for good. Instead, most people who are using credit cards are using them to fuel their rampant consumer spending and are allowing them to increase their lifestyle in a way that their regular income won't allow them to do. And this often leads to people carrying a balance on their credit cards, which will leave them paying super high predatory interest rates. And even if someone pays off their balance in full every month and doesn't pay any interest, they can still be taken advantage by credit cards, since these credit cards are engineered to increase consumer spending, leading people to spend more than they normally would without the credit card. So in short, credit cards can and should be used responsibly. However, you need to be really careful about how you use them. And you also need to be really careful when selecting your first credit card. And that's what this video is for. We're going to talk about the things you need to look out for when selecting your first credit card, and I'll also give my recommendation on a credit card at the end of the video. But before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. I really appreciate it, so thanks. And I also just want to point out that I am not a financial advisor. These are just my own personal thoughts on credit card usage. And before you make any decision related to your finances, make sure you do your own research, and if needed, talk to a certified financial advisor. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, we can get back to the topic at hand. Before we dive in too deep on the things you need to consider for your first credit card, I want to first briefly talk about why you should even be getting a credit card in the first place. If your primary motive behind using a credit card is to accumulate cash back and travel points, then your intentions may be a bit misguided. I'm not against taking advantage of points and cash back. I definitely do it myself, but that's not even close to being the most important reason why you should have a credit card. The main benefit behind opening your first credit card and using it is that it will allow you to build your credit history and establish a credit score. And that's going to be most beneficial for you when you eventually go to purchase your first home, assuming you need a mortgage for that house. If you put off getting a credit card and you don't have any credit history, then you are going to have a really hard time qualifying for a mortgage when the time comes. After all, why would a lender want to lend to somebody if they don't have a solid track record with debt? In my opinion, credit cards really are the best and easiest way to build your credit history early into your personal finance journey. And we're not going to get too into the weeds on the specific components of your credit score, but I did just want to call it out briefly since it is the main reason you're going to want to open a credit card in the first place. If you want to learn more about how to actually build your credit score, I recently did a video on how I achieved an 800 credit score. So if you want to check it out, I'll link it right here and I'll put it in the description. And before we move on, I also want to just quickly discuss best practices for how to use the credit card once you have one. The important thing is that you only buy things that you can afford with the credit card. Another way to phrase that is that don't buy anything that you wouldn't have bought if you didn't have the credit card. Stick to the budget that you've always been using. And make sure you pay off your entire balance every month. Because number one, this will ensure that you pay no interest on your credit card. And number two, if you pay off your balance every month, it will allow you to start to build a good credit history, which is going to have a positive impact on your credit score. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on your card to do this. When I was 18 and I got my first credit card, all I did with it was fill up my gas tank, and then I would just pay it off immediately. And doing just that allowed me to build my credit score into the mid 700s just a couple years after high school. And that's really all it comes down to when it comes to using your credit card. Especially at the beginning, don't spend too much on it, only buy stuff you can afford and pay it off quickly. And make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on my latest videos. I really appreciate it, so thanks. All right, now we can jump into my specific advice on things that you should look out for when applying to your first credit card. And my first piece of advice is to pick a credit card with no annual fee. If you're not familiar with annual fees, then let me briefly explain. Some credit cards will charge you a fee every year just for having that credit card. And they usually do that to help subsidize the cost of the rewards or the perks that that card offers. The more perks a credit card has usually means the higher annual fee that's associated with that card. For example, if we look at the American Express Platinum card, we're going to find a bunch of exclusive perks like hotel credits, airport lounge access, streaming reimbursements, plus a lot more. But that card also has an annual fee of $695. It's not cheap. Once you're more acclimated to the world of credit cards, some of these options that have annual fees might be a good option for you, but you do not need to worry about these right now. When you're starting out, you're just going to want to find one that's free. And then once you prove to yourself that you can handle credit cards responsibly, and once you know a little bit more about the credit card industry and which offers are actually good, then you can start to look at some of the more expensive credit cards to see if they might be worth it for you. But for now, free is king. All right, next up, you're going to want to make sure you pick a credit card that reports to all three major credit bureaus, which are the organizations that calculate and report your credit score. Credit card companies and lenders will regularly report your activity to these bureaus, and this includes things like on-time payments or lack of on-time payments, how long your accounts have been open. Typically, the longer you have an account, the better it is for your credit score, how much of your available credit you actually use, plus a few other things that we're not going to mention here. But the most important thing is that you need to make sure you have 100% on-time payments so that you do not have any derogatory marks sent to any of these bureaus. That's going to be key when it comes to growing and maintaining a good credit score. Remember, I already discussed at the beginning of the video that the whole reason we're even opening a credit card is so that we can build our credit. So if you pick a card that does not report to the bureaus, then there's no point in having a credit card at all. And the chances are that if you're using a reputable and well-known brand for your credit card, they're going to be properly reporting it to the bureaus. But before you apply for anything, make sure you double check and just make sure that they're reporting to the proper agencies. Okay, this next piece of advice is probably common sense, but it might be one that you're not thinking about when you're looking at credit cards. But you need to make sure that your card is easy and straightforward to use. And that includes being able to check your balance and make payments on your credit card. You definitely do not want to have a card that makes it difficult for you to access your statements or has weird payment requirements. For me personally, for every credit card that I have, I make sure that they have a good app so that I can just manage all of my activity on my phone. I can check it anytime. I also just set up automatic payments so that I don't have to go in and actually worry about paying the cards off every month. Because I like paying my cards off quickly, I'll usually go in and pay everything off before the end of the month. So the automatic payment usually doesn't even kick in, but I have it there just in case I forget so that I can maintain my 100% payment history. It may sound simple, but working with bad lenders is gonna make you wish that you paid more attention beforehand. And on a similar note, you also need to find a lender or a credit card company that's not scummy and is not charging you hidden fees that you're not even aware of. For the most part, these fees are only going to appear if you're late on your payments, so hopefully you'll never even see those, but there are some fees that can impact even those of us that are good at managing our money. And all credit card companies are going to have some fees. There's no way around it, but you want to make sure you pick a company that's upfront in what they charge and is fair in how they assess those fees. Otherwise, you're going to start racking up a stack of fees and it's not going to be clear on how you can avoid them. Besides accrued interest, some other types of credit card fees are return payment fees, meaning that if you make a payment to pay off your balance, but that payment bounces back and does not go through, you'll be charged an additional fee for that. There's over the limit fees where if you go over your credit limit, they'll charge you. You shouldn't even be getting close to your credit limit, so hopefully this will not be a problem. There's late payment fees, which is pretty self-explanatory, but if you are late on a payment, they'll charge you an extra fee, and that's on top of any interest that you already owe. And another common one is foreign transaction fees, which is an extra fee that you'll get if you make any purchases outside of the country. And keep that in mind, because if that's something you do, there are credit cards that will waive any foreign transaction fees. And there's definitely more fees out there than the ones I just listed, so keep an eye out for anything else that may come up. And just to be clear, you're never going to find a credit card that doesn't charge any fees. Again, you just want to find a credit card company that's transparent and fair so that you don't pay any fees that you don't expect. All right, to close us out, we can finally talk about cash back and rewards, and I'll also give my recommendation on what I think a great first credit card is. And we're talking about cash back and rewards now because, like I said, this is the least important thing when it comes to having a credit card and building your credit. Think of it as just an added bonus. Some personal finance gurus may disagree with that, but cash back and rewards are always going to be very small in comparison to your overall financial picture. And I also just want to throw out, if you're signing up for a credit card that has no annual fee, any perks or rewards are probably going to be fairly small, but you can still find free cards that actually have pretty good cash back and travel point incentives. And these incentives can can be offered in a few different ways. The first is through an introductory offer, which is often referred to as a welcome bonus. And this is a one-time reward for signing up for that credit card. Now, you usually have to spend a certain amount of money within a given time frame on that card to unlock this welcome bonus. For example, the Chase Freedom Unlimited card offers a welcome bonus of $200, but to get that, you have to spend $500 on that credit card within the first 3 months of having it, which is honestly a pretty good offer. Welcome bonuses and introductory offers can be a great way to accumulate travel points or cash back quickly, but it only makes sense if the money you're spending to unlock those bonuses is money that you were already planning on spending and fits within your budget. For example, if you were only planning on spending $1,000 on your credit card in a given month, but you end up spending $2,000 because you need to hit that target for your welcome bonus, then you really just made the whole bonus pointless, and it's going to have a negative net impact on your personal finances. So you should definitely take advantage of intro offers and welcome bonuses, but please make sure you're only spending money that you would normally. The second way that you can earn rewards is by earning travel points based on a percentage of your spend on a credit card. So if your card offers 3% back in travel cards for every dollar you spend, and you spend $100 on that card, then you'll earn $3 worth of travel points with that company. For most cards, 1 point is worth 1 cent, but you can maximize this by transferring those points to travel partners. But that's a topic for another video. And this differs a little bit from cashback, because instead of getting actual money back like you would with cashback, you are receiving travel points instead, which is a great deal if you travel a lot and you think you're going to actually use them, which I do. I always prefer travel points over straight up cash back because I feel like I get a better value out of using those travel points. However, if you never travel, then you might just want to get a card that offers straight up cash back so that you can actually have that money in your pocket. So considering all of that, I want to give my recommendation on what I think the best credit card is for a first-time credit card user. And for me, that's going to be the Chase Freedom Unlimited and the Chase Freedom Flex. First of all, both these cards are super easy to use. Chase has a great banking app. They have a great credit card app. I can manage everything on my phone. I can view all my rewards on my phone. I can view my statements, and it's really seamless. They also report to all the major credit bureaus, so there's no issues there. And I have by far gotten the most value out of my Chase Rewards travel points than I have any other credit card I've had. Most websites I read have Chase listed at the top for the best travel credit cards because their points are just so valuable. And you'll notice that I mentioned two cards, the Freedom Unlimited and the Freedom Flex. It is possible to hold both cards, and it's actually ideal. I have both of those cards. But you don't want to apply for both at once because having too many credit card applications in a short amount of time will hurt your credit score a little bit. Not a huge impact, but there's definitely an impact there. Now, let me explain what these cards offer in terms of rewards. We already talked about the welcome bonus, where they offer a $200 welcome bonus if you spend $500 on the card within the first 3 months. I think most people will find that they have at least $500 worth of monthly expenses that they can allocate that towards. And you can do that for both cards for a total of $400. So it's not a bad welcome bonus. And then as far as earning travel points, the Chase Freedom Unlimited card offers 5% on any travel purchased through the Chase portal, which is also super easy to use, 3% on drugstore purchases, 3% on restaurants, and then 1.5% on all other purchases. Now, the Freedom Flex works a little bit differently. You also get 5% on Chase travel, you get 3% on drugstores, 3% on restaurants, but you also get 5% on rotating categories that switch out every quarter. So for example, this quarter, I get 5% cash back on gas, EV charging, live entertainment, and movie theaters. And then anything else would be 1% back. So a possible strategy could be to apply for the Freedom Unlimited and then a few months later get the Freedom Flex. You would then use the Freedom Flex on the rotating categories to take advantage of the 5% cash back, but then you would use your Freedom Unlimited on everything else because it gets a little better of a return on the items that don't fall into those categories. So I think that's a good way to do it. Don't get too wrapped up in the points. Credit card companies are not in the business of losing money, so it's super hard to actually come out ahead with these things. They either use these rewards to get people to run up a balance and get stuck in debt, or they use them to just get people to overspend on consumer items. So in general, you just need to be really careful out there. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think about credit cards. Do you agree with the advice I gave in this video? Let me know. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.